Welcome to the 2024 planning, goal setting, planning, just musing kind of what I would like to get out of this year. And as we know with horses, the possibilities are endless. We could achieve everything, we could achieve nothing. But if we make it to the end largely intact, then when you've got a horse, that is definitely a pro. So without a further ado, let's get into my 2024 goals. Now, these could be so varied, but I have like a primary goal. I'd really like to get this done. This is going to be my main focus. If I achieve this, excellent. And then I've broken it down this year into like my primary goal, what I really would like to get out of this year, and then subsequent goals that if the going is good, then I've got my eye on that as a possibility. So we've got definites I would like to achieve and possible I would like to achieve. So the first thing I would definitely like to get done in 2024 is get Estrid to advance. So last year my goal was for her to complete her novice qualifications, and she did it and it was excellent. We actually did very well on our goals for 2023. And this year she is now open, which means she can do up to 80-kilometer graded rides, but she's not allowed to do any race rides yet. So I'd like to upgrade her to advanced, which means doing at least, so the EGB and the FEI rules are slightly different. So the FEI requires kind of a slightly longer distance to what EGB requires to upgrade to advanced. So I'm going to go down the FEI route because it means if I eventually do FEI with Estrid, she has done those qualifications rather than do the slightly lower distance EGB route that will upgrade her and will be of no detriment to her whatsoever, but they won't count towards her FEI qualifications. So basically, EGB allow you to do a 64 kilometre to upgrade to advanced as well as an 80k, whereas the FEI, I think, want to 80k's. There's a bracket check because it's changing all the time and I keep getting confused. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to aim for qualifying for FEI by doing their route, which also means that there's like a cap on the speed, so I've got to be careful not to go over I think it's like 16 kilometers an hour. So just to make sure that we're falling in all of the FEI categories, so that if maybe potentially we might get there and want to do it, that we've already jumped through the hoops rather than then having to do extra rides. So my main goal is getting Estrid to advanced, which will require 2 80-kilometer graded endurance rides. Now in the UK, these can either be a 240 kilometer loops, and there's the initial vetting, 1 vet gate, and then a vetting at the end, or it's a 3-loop 80k. There's no kind of like preference, I don't think. It really varies what ride you go to. So the 3 loops have 2 vet gates. There are pros and cons to both. Obviously for Estrid, who finds being at the venue and being in a kind of vetting scenario a bit stressful, would it be better to go with the 80k's that only have 1 vet gate? Or because she is stressy and she does find it stressful, do I go with the 80k's that have more vet gates for more practice? Who knows? We'll see. I don't think really I'm going to get to choose. It's going to be more a circumstances thing. But yeah, that's how we do it. So my aim is to get 2 80k's done under 16k an hour, so they count towards her FEI qualifications. And that is my main goal of the year. So what I do is go on the EGB website, I filter the events for 2024 to all the 80k's, and then I narrow that down to my kind of the closest ones to me. Now for 80k, it doesn't really matter how far away it is because I'm always going to go the day before. I don't want to travel her the day of an 80k. So in terms of travel distance, I don't really mind. It doesn't really matter where it is. But in terms of travel costs, I would like to reduce those as much as possible. So I have chosen rides that are as close to me as possible, but if they're not possible and I have to go to like a further afield ride, that's completely fine. So what I've done is I have printed off one A4 sheet. It's literally from calendarpedia.co.uk, and I always print these off, and I print loads off because I get wrong and plans change all the time. And I've written down all the ATK. So I found 13 potential options for Estrid to do an ATK this year. And instead of being really set, so I learned this last year, is that instead of being really set on a certain ride, I have got a couple of options every month that could be the potential ATK, and it just gives us a little bit more fluidity for if things go wrong. I don't want to go straight into ATK with her, so I have got planned in March going to a 40k and lots of little like 16 to 22k pleasure rides up till then, like February, March, April time. Then I want to do a 40k just to like get back into the swing of things, so she remembers what a vetting is and just see how she's doing. And then I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that our first ATK will either be the end of April down here, there's a couple of options here, or start of May. Who knows? Who knows what would happen? And then I want to give her at least 4 weeks off between each ride, and hopefully, potentially, her second ATK will be in June. Now, if the endurance gods are on our side, or they're just not against us, and the general equestrian gods are with us, then there is the potential, the possibility that goal number 2 could happen. So it's not really a goal. It is, my eyes are on it. I'm aware that it's there. And if we qualify for it, then maybe we could go. So ETB hold a national championship. So this year is at King's Forest, a ride that we've been to a couple of times. It's a really lovely ride. It's quite flat, fairly nice going, and I would like to qualify for that and go and do a national championship. I've never actually been to a national championship. I've been to the internationals, like the home internationals, where it's like you're on a team like Wales, England, Scotland, Ireland, and you're competing against each other. But this is like individuals. So it looks super fun because people qualify for it. It gets really good turnout. So the classes are really big and it's quite competitive. So that's something I would really like to aim for. So I've had a little look of what I need to do to qualify for that. And on the EGB website, when I looked, it said to do the novice championship, which is a 50-kilometre ride, you have to have done 3 30 to 45 kilometre rides, one of which must be above 11k an hour. Now that's probably not going to happen for Estrid this year because I don't need to do the lower distance rides and I don't want to put unnecessary mileage on her. So then the next one up, the Open National Championship, is a 65-ish kilometre graded ride, and to qualify for that you need to do 3 40 to 68 kilometre rides, one of which must be over 12 kilometres an hour. Now that's also unlikely because I don't need to do those kind of middle longer distances. So I like to do minimum rides possible to go up through the distances. Estrid might be different. She might need kind of more exposure and stuff, but in an ideal world, minimal mileage so I can do quality training for the competitions rather than competing to train, if you know what I mean. And I don't need to do, for FEI, I don't need to do those 64 kilometre, like between 50 and 60 whatever kilometre rides. So the likelihood of me getting 3 40 to 68 kilometres before June is highly unlikely. So then we move on up to the Advanced National Championships, was an 80 kilometre CER, so it's a race. So it would be her first race, and I wouldn't go to race her. I would go to expose her, enjoy it, have the experience and stuff, because there is no way she would be experienced enough to race. And would she even be experienced enough to kind of cope with the atmosphere and stuff? I don't know. We'll see how our season goes. But it is a nice possibility that maybe we could go. So for that, you need to do 2 63 to 80 kilometre rides, one of which must be an 80 kilometre graded endurance ride. And that is what I'm aiming to do. So maybe we'll qualify and maybe we'll go, but it really depends on how she is at venues and what I think kind of is best for her and best for her progression. If we don't go to the national championships, I would like to do a race ride this year, not to race her, but for the experience, for the mass start, for kind of the slightly more adrenaline feel. Because when I did ride in big groups and last season, she did really well and she really fed off it, so I think she'd quite enjoy it. So I have, on my kind of 80 kilometre options, I do have a few in like the August, September area that could potentially, if we don't go to the national championships, be her first race. Oh, Estrid racing. I just can't imagine it at the moment. Like, she's not there. She's nowhere near there. But dream big, people. So I'd love to do it, but my main focus will be getting her to advanced. But who knows? Who knows what would happen? Then my third, very, very far away, potentially, definitely not, might happen, probably won't, is that at the end of August, start of September this season, there is an FEI ride. So if she gets her 280Ks and she's doing pretty well, she could maybe do her first 1-star at the end of the year. Who knows? We're not holding out for it, but we're not saying it's not going to happen. So those are the 3 things that I dream that Estrid will do. Get to advanced, do her first race ride, or go to a national championship, because it'll be the same thing either way. Get her first FEI 1-star under her belt. 2024. But the main thing is that she is happy, healthy, sound at the end of the season, and hopefully we get to advanced. Now, we can't forget Tizzy. Like, who can forget Tizzy? Definitely not me. We are not doing man versus horse this year. The entries, the entries went out this weekend and you could apply to do it. And I've seen lots of people on Facebook like, yeah, I got an entry, gonna start my training, and it's so exciting, and what an experience that was. But Estrid, not Estrid, Tizzy's back feet did struggle a little bit with the training in terms of like the loading of the outside hoof. I'd like to keep her barefoot this year, and she is getting a little bit stiffer and things like that, so I don't want to aim towards anything big this year. Last year was amazing. Like, her training went so well. She was actually super fit. She coped really well. I did have to shoe her again just because of that. The outside hoof was wearing too much for the training that she needed to do. So this year I would like to do 3 pleasure rides with Tizzy. Hopefully ones I haven't done before. I'd like to kind of just spend a little bit of time with her, go on little adventures and go and explore and see things that we haven't seen before, go to rides that we haven't done, and just have a nice experience together. Maybe go away for a weekend, but this year is Dan and I's wedding, so it's in October, so I can't spend too much money playing with ponies this year, so we'll see. It might not be a proper horsey holiday, but I might take like Tizzy away for a weekend, maybe home, go to the beach, who knows. So yeah, Tizzy's having a very laid back goals of the year, but I just want to get her out to 3 things. And the reason I set it as a goal is I just have the kind of personality that if I haven't set it as a goal, I could really let it slide. So I could really let what Tizzy does slide, because I don't need to fit her up for anything, so I don't need to ride her as much. And actually I want to keep lots of muscle mass on her. I want to keep her fit. I want her to go into her elderly years feeling as good as possible. So I set it as a goal. So I hope that my ramblings of how I set my goals and how I've kind of structured my year, maybe there is some sort of helpful information in there, or you've just had a good laugh at how my brain works. But yeah, I hope that your 2024 goals, Joe, setting them is fun and that you achieve them and it's a fairly plain sailing road. But as we all know, with horses, it's up and down, and we've got to be resilient, and we've got to kind of pick ourselves up, have lots of grit, and just keep going. But Joe, most of all, do what's best for the horses, not what's gonna get us to our goal. So Joe, I always keep in mind that the horses come first, and my hopes, dreams, goals, things I want to achieve definitely come a very firm second. A little 2023 recap, just because I was having a little look before I filmed this. I did 135 horsey training sessions, which actually isn't that much. For 2 horses in training, isn't that much. I mean, both of them had quite a big chunk. They both had 3 months off last year. 79 sessions I recorded on like Equilab, which was 91 hours of riding, 743 kilometers. I don't record all my sessions, mainly because I forget sometimes, but also because sometimes I just want to go have fun and I don't want to turn on my phone. But what I was most impressed with, I was like, oh yeah, is that my left and right ratios. So of walk, I did 65 minutes turning left and 62 minutes turning right. Trot, I did 44 minutes turning left, 43 minutes turning right, and my canter was 4 minutes both ways. I was quite proud of that. So I want to get better at recording my sessions for 2024 and kind of analysing them a bit more and seeing trends and stuff. I used to do it loads when I was training for FEI, like literally I knew everything about every training session, and I made comments, and I had goals for each individual training session, for each individual week, for each individual training block, like for each ride. Like I was like micromanaging my training and goals, which actually I do find quite fun because I'm super nerdy. I don't want to get that intense yet. I'm not saying never, but yet. But I do want to kind of track it a little bit better, see how Estrid is dealing with the increase in load, see if I can see trends, and that experience that I've got now of more horses behind my belt, Joe, hopefully I will recognise patterns and catch anything before anything goes wrong, but also recognise the things that are going right and keep doing them. So that is my goal for myself, is to record better, analyse better and reflect better in 2024. So yes, hopefully Estrid will get to Advanced. Hopefully Tizzy will get to 3 pony parties, and hopefully I will get better at kind of collating my training and kind of appreciating what we're achieving and being able to spot trends, good or bad. So good luck for 2024, everyone. And hopefully in December, we can look back at this video again and we've achieved something.